Hello and welcome. You're watching Ask Profit on NDTV Profit. I'm Smriti Chaudhary, and this show is all about your stock-related questions. So write to us on any of our social media channels or on the WhatsApp number that's on your screen. Write to us your short-term technical queries on stocks and or even long-term investment questions, and we'll take them and get them answered by our fundamental and technical guests. But before we do that, let's take a quick check of where the markets are currently at. You have the benchmark indices lower today in trade, down about 0.2%. Bit of a weak day in terms of second weekday rather in terms of the markets, these losses are pretty much broad based. So not that some sectors are doing well, but let's look at some sectors as well. You have the Nifty Bank that's down 0.6%, healthcare index, Nifty IT, all in the red today. However, Nifty Media, metals, oil and gas, especially metals and oil and gas, doing pretty well in trade today, up over 1%. And you have Nifty PSU Bank as well, that's up about 1.3% up in trade. Let's look at let's look at the breadth of the market as well. Not that that's going to be any different from what's happening on the benchmarks, but let's pull that up and see where it's currently at. Yeah, slightly a bit of a chop and churn in the market since we started. On a negative note, seem to have changed a little bit. Still in the favor of advances as we speak. Let's also look at some of the stocks that are moving in trade today. You have Concor that's moving, it's up about 2% on the back of a Morgan Stanley upgrade. And they've also increased the target price on this one. There's IGL on the back of results, Navin Fluorine also on the back of results. However, the focus for today is the power project financiers, which is REC and PFC. You look at REC, it's up 6% in trade. Now this is happening after a con call that happened this morning, and to talk about that con call, what the management thinks after these draft guidelines that came in last week to increase the provisions, REC made some clarifications on how that will impact the company, and for that Harsh is joining us to give us the key takeaways.
Well, absolutely. So, quickly looking at the key takeaway, at least for me, the headline, possibly no impact with regard to profitability, no impact with regard to book value, and no impact with regard to net worth. And therefore, this essentially will impact only your capital adequacy ratio, and more specifically your tier 1 capital adequacy ratio. Now, given that REC and PFC in any case are very well capitalized, technically this should not impact even growth largely significantly, and that's exactly what even the management continue to guide for. They've not changed their growth guidance on the back of this. But in addition to this, what they've also suggested, so of course this gives some bit of positivity, but an added positivity is also the fact that they clarified that they have had offhand discussions with senior management of the RBI, senior personnel at the RBI, and they've suggested that all state government-backed projects will not be covered under these proposed draft guidelines. Of course, they are still proposed and in draft, but they will not get covered, and therefore they suggest that at least 40% of their book, which is state government-backed, will not get impacted at all. So what part of the book will get impacted? Just about 20% or 1 lakh crore worth of their book will currently get impacted. Going forward, of course, there will be that assessment done on a project to project basis, but only your adequacy ratio, capital adequacy ratio, will get impacted as a result of it.
All right, thank you, Harsh, for that. And on that note, let me introduce you to the guests for today. We have Saurabh Jain, Equity Head Research at SMC Global Securities, and Vaishali Parekh, Vice President Technical Research at Prabhudas Lilladher. Welcome to both of you, and thanks for joining in. Saurabh, I'm going to come to you first on REC. We heard Harsh talk about the impact that is likely on the books if these draft guidelines come into play. Now, of course, this is very preliminary right now. There are discussions that's going to happen, and then only this will actually, if it kind of if it's put into practice. But REC seems upbeat. Market has taken positive cues from the commentary as well. Not too much of an impact there. What's your fundamental view? How are you viewing these project financiers, especially something like an REC, to do in the longer term?
See, in my view, I think there is a lot of business which is going to come for the REC. The company is planning to double their book in the next 5-6 years. So clearly, there is a lot of optimism with regards to infrastructure activity in the power sector. Now, with the clarity coming in, I think most of the concerns have receded, and that is why we are seeing that some kind of a sanity is also coming into the market, and the stock price is jumping in line with that. So since the major part of the book is guaranteed by the state government, so anyway it is not going to be impacted. And with regards to, I think these provisionings are now only draft guidance and will be implemented in the course of 3 years. So I think as the time will pass by, we'll be able to see whether these companies would be able to pass on the higher cost to the borrower or not, because there is some amount of competition also there in the market. So yes, some companies will get impacted, but in the case of REC and PFC, I don't think so there is a much impact, and that is why I think the sanity has already come into the prices.
But considering how much the stock price has run up, there was a bit of a correction, of course, after these guidelines came in. But considering the valuations, do you still see these counters as a buy?
See, if you look at the valuation, I think it is trading at 1.5 times to book value. See, these sectors, the sector and the peripheral, the financial were beaten down heavily. And in the last 3-4 years, we have seen a lot of activity coming from the government side, a lot of policy making. And these policy making and the constructive role played by the government is expected to unfold in the next 4 or 5 years, and that is what is being reflected in the prices. So I think from the long-term perspective, the valuations doesn't look dearer to me, considering the fact that the growth opportunity that is being seen by in the sector.
Right, fair point. Let's start off with the queries now, and the first one is from Praveen. This one's on LIC. They say they bought the shares at a price of 978. That's the average buy price. It's currently trading below that price. Now, of course, this is more from a longer term perspective, but I'd like to take a technical check on this as well. Based on the charts, Vaishali, how does LIC look, and what are the levels that you should watch out for in this counter?
Hi, very good morning. So yes, LIC actually have got a very good trend, but just in the last few days, we are seeing a bit of corrective move. So near-term basis, 920 acts as a good support, but otherwise 875 acts as a crucial support. That should be held on for this trend to continue. So I would guess that yes, one can accumulate from these lower levels, because once the stock once again bounces above 1,000 levels, we are looking at 1150, 1200.
All right, fair point. Let's also take a fundamental check on LIC. Saurabh, the stock price seems to be, currently for somebody who's sitting at a bit of a losses, but has a view of, let's say, I think it's 5 years that they're possibly looking at. What would you do? What would you suggest somebody to do with the stock?
See, it's true that there is a very low penetration in India, but consider the fact that people have now started opting for the term plan pure risk policies, and these policies do not fetch money profitability for all the insurance companies. So yes, LIC is a stronger player in the domain, but I feel that I think making money from the long-term perspective, the valuation also looks difficult to me. So in my sense, I think it is better to take out money from the insurance giant and put into the banking sector.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Next question is from Satya. They're talking about the counter Ethos. Now, I'm hoping, Saurabh, you have coverage on this counter. Now, the question is that they bought the stock and they booked profits at 2,800 levels some time back. The stock is currently seem to be in a bit of a downturn. It's currently trading at around 2,200 levels. It has, in the last 1 month itself, it's down about 13%. Would you suggest that this is a good entry point from a longer term perspective?
I think this company is into the premium segment, premium watches, and there is a lot of waiting period for those watches. That maybe a year or 2 year, 3 year kind of a waiting period is there. So in this segment, I think it is the only listed company, and the valuations are also on the higher side. So if one has to jump into the company, I think he should take benefit of the correction and accumulate stock in a staggered.
All right. Next counter we're talking about is Antony Waste. This one's from Arpit Maheshwari they've written to us on YouTube. They bought the stock at a price of 350 rupees, considerable profit there. Vaishali, first I'll come to you on this counter. How does the charts look on this one? And from let's say a longer term perspective, any sort of target do you have?
I'll just have a look. I guess the stock is only in the BSE counter.
Yes, Antony Waste.
Okay, I'll just have.
Okay, let's. Saurabh, if you have a longer term view on this counter, would you suggest holding on to this counter?
Not in Gambit, won't be able to come.
Okay, all right. Then, Vaishali, do you have it, or should we move on?
No.
Okay. Let's talk about another counter, which is Zomato. This one's from a longer term perspective. This one's from Dhruvaj. They say they bought the counter at a price of 111 rupees. It's trading considerably higher from there. Saurabh, brokerages have turned very positive on Zomato. You look at the Blinkit business doing very well now. What a turnaround story that has been. What's the long term view?
I think from the long-term perspective, I think things have become more clear. The company has, gone at a bit positive. Recently, they have increased the platform fee also, which is an interesting step. And I think there are only two players, Zomato and Swiggy, and these companies are surely going to benefit from what they have did in the past. So I think from that point of view, there is a constructive view. He can book some profits, but from the long-term perspective, it can be a good role.
Okay. Vaishali, coming back to you on Antony Waste, if you have charts for that counter, could you suggest...
Can you give me the code number? Can you give me the code?
All right, I'll have to look into that. But until we do that, let's take up the next query. This one's from Naman Diora from Kolkata. They're talking about the counter Metro Brands. Vaishali, we'll come back on Antony Waste in a little bit. But if you okay.
I got it. It's AWHCL, right? The current market price is 485. So I would say one must buy this stock at every decline because the long-term chart is pretty much strong. The prominent support comes at around 430. So above this stock going above 530, 540 gives in further strength to go towards say 600 levels also. So I would say yes, the support level is pretty much close to the current levels. So one should go for it.
All right. Vaishali, coming to you on the next counter as well. This is Metro Brands that we're talking about. This is from Naman Diora. They bought the counter at a price of 1,285. Slightly elevated levels from where it's currently at. But the time period is here is 3 months. So would you suggest holding on to it? And is there some sort of trajectory for upside from here on?
So I would say so far the stock has been doing very well. Even on the weekly chart that I'm seeing, it's just a consolidation. After making a high of 1400 levels, it is consolidating at these levels. So as long as 1030 levels are maintained as support, I think this stock is ready for a pickup. At least till 1200, we can have a look. Further on, once it sustains about 1200 levels, we can aim for higher targets. So I would say yes, this is a good buying opportunity, perhaps even to average it out.
All right. It's time to slip into a short break, but we'll be back and we'll take more questions on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're tuned into Ask Profit. Let's dive into the queries again. And the one that we're taking right now is a very interesting query. This one's on BSE shares. This one's from Raj. They bought the shares in 2020 at a price of 100 rupees. It's currently over 2,800 right now, and they bought a quantity of 2,000 shares. Saurabh, the question here is that they have a target of 10,000 rupees a share, and they want to know when they can reach that. Now, I understand it's a very difficult question to answer as to when this sort of from 2,800 to 10,000 will happen. But let's take a long-term view on something like a BSE. It's if I remember correctly, it's one of the best performing stocks in the last 1 year itself.
Absolutely. I think the stock has performed very well in line with the rise in the participation, equity participation in the markets. But the point is here, the concerns have developed after the SEBI order of hitting the stock exchange with some kind of the payment which this company has to give, which will impact profitability negatively, and that is also for the retrospective time, I feel. Then the BSE has gone ahead and revised their charges for the option Sensex and the option trading on that side. But in that sense, I think it may be I think the stock will probably cool off and spend some time, and still investors see what kind of impact is going to come on the balance sheet. From the long-term perspective, I think 15% CAGR kind of a thing can be expected from if you want to hold for the long.
All right, Vaishali, any targets you have on a counter like BSE?
The BSE right now, well, it had some negative news, and also it has consolidating. But I would say on a broad base, 2,500 acts as a very good support. And once the stock gets into a new round of momentum, I think we can look for a projected target of 3,200 to 3,400.
All right. The next counter we're talking about is Bajaj Auto. This one's from Jay Krishnan from Kozhikode. They bought the counter from a medium-term perspective at a price of 8,990 rupees. It's at slightly elevated levels. Vaishali, from a medium-term perspective, would you suggest holding on to it?
I would say keep 8,600 as stop loss, because right now we are seeing some exhaustion. Market is also a bit vulnerable right now. So if these support levels are broken, then one must exit.
And considering the counter, and we saw the FARA data also come in today, Saurabh, from something like a Bajaj Auto, what's the long-term view?
I think they are doing a lot of premiumization in this segment. That is why they are able to generate higher average revenue per bike. Also, the margins are also going up. They have very good plans with respect to the 400cc kind of a bike and the other launches they have planned. So, and the premium, all the premium products are being lapped up by the consumers. In that sense, I think in the next few quarters we'll see the growth will stay for long. So in that sense, I think it is out.
The next counter we're talking about is IRCTC. This one's from Sufyan. They say they bought the counter at a price of 477. It's currently trading above 1,000 levels. So from a longer term perspective, something like an IRCTC that we've already seen the counter run up quite a bit in the last 1 year itself. And I think it's above, it's given returns of over 60%. Do you see more upside from here on?
See, from the business perspective, I think the growth will continue to come, but on the valuation side, I think it has become the expensive side. So I think it is better to take some profits from the table, maybe 30-40% from the table, and continue holding from the top.
All right. The next counter is Barak Engineering. This one's from Hari Om Khurana. They say they bought the counter at a price of 534, and it's currently below that price. From a technical perspective, Vaishali, would you continue holding on to this counter? If you can give us some key levels on this as well.
Sure. So I think it's just consolidating. But having said that, 480 acts as a crucial support level, because that also happens to be the 200-day moving average support level. So I guess 480, 470 should be the good support band. Continue holding. There's nothing wrong with the stock. It's just going into minor consolidation. And when I'm seeing the larger period time frame, the weekly and the monthly, I think the growth is intact. continue holding this.
All right. Another question for you, Saurabh. This one's from Jaya Kumar, and very interesting questions. Now, elections, the polling is happening, the results are just around the corner, not very far from there. This one's, the question here is, if you can give us 4 PSU stocks. Now, the time perspective here is very short, 6 to 12 month period. And considering there's going to be some volatility as well, or there may be some volatility because we're looking at election results in a month or so, would you suggest buying into any PSU stocks with such a shorter term perspective? And if yes, if you can give us some names.
I think from the equity market investment point of view, you must have a horizon of maybe 1 to 3 years, since the perspective is short. But then also, I would recommend a PSU bank like Canara Bank from investment point of view. The other could be Larsen & Toubro. The third one could be, I feel, Steel Authority of India, because steel prices are also too marching up. And these 3 stocks are coming to my mind.
Okay, Steel and SAIL, Canara Bank, and what's the third counter that you mentioned?
Larsen & Toubro.
Okay, all right. Okay, so more of an infrastructure play there. Okay, the next counter we're talking about is Car Trade. This one's from Ayan Basu from Kolkata. They say they bought the shares at a price of 825 rupees. If you can pull up the chart for Car Trade, it's trading above that price. On a technical, if you can give us a technical view on this, Vaishali, there's a considerable profit here for this for Ayan Basu. Would you suggest maybe booking some of them at this juncture?
So depending on what the time period that he's ready to pull, because, of course, short-term period, it would be advisable to book partial. But now that I'm looking at the weekly chart, it's coming out of the range. It is showing signs of, a reversal even on the weekly chart. So as long as it sustains above 900 levels, the stock has a lot of strength, perhaps going towards even 1,000 to 1,100 levels from here on. So yes, depending on your time period and your period of holding, I think this is the stock worth holding on for higher levels.
All right, so that's a hold on Car Trade from Vaishali. The next counter is TCS. This one's from Vineet Sharma. They say they bought the shares at a price of it's if you can pull up TCS, yes, it's trading close to 3,979 rupees. Saurabh, I'm going to come to you on something like a TCS in the IT space. We've seen the shares a bit on a rise. However, you look at the commentary from the management, from something like a TCS, and even other big IT names, it doesn't seem to be extremely positive at this juncture. And I understand that the deal wins seems to be at par with what it was supposed to be, but the conversion to book is probably slower right now. So for a TCS from a longer term perspective, would you suggest who already has bought in the stock to continue holding on to it?
See, if you look at the deal pipeline, all the bigger companies saw good amount of deal coming in the March quarter also, and for the full year also, they have one good amount of deals. The problem is with regards to the discretionary spends. So I think all these managements have indicated that the discretionary spends, especially from the BFSI, is on the lower side, and they do not see it picking up. The other point is that with the rise in the geopolitical tension and the hardening of crude prices, the inflation which was earlier expected to cool off is not happening. And that is why Fed is expected to keep interest rate on the higher side. And this will the higher interest rate will further curb all the companies in the US, like the BFSI sector and all, to spend lower. So the outlook becomes, a little darker for all these IT companies. So at this point in time, these IT plays like TCS are a contrarian play.
All right. Now, unfortunately, we're completely out of time on this edition of Ask Profit. Thank you so much, Saurabh and Vaishali, for joining in and for answering so many questions for us. And viewers, thanks for tuning in. We'll take more questions tomorrow if you were not able to take them today. And I hope that the questions that we did take are useful to you. But don't go anywhere. We have lots more lined up for you on NDTV Profit.
Hello and welcome to Earnings Edge. This is Anushi Vakharia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lashed out at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi at his campaign in Telangana today. He turned the tables on Gandhi's narrative on various industrialists by asking Ambani, Adani, se kitna maal uthaya. Listen into what he had said.
ये कांग्रेस के शहजादे पिछले 5 साल से सुबह उठते ही